But those of you who saw Channel 4 News last night, and you can see it on YouTube if you missed it, or on the Channel 4 News website, will have seen that I was confronted for the first 6 minutes of the programme, not by a spokesman for the Canadian government, no. Not by someone speaking with the authority of the Canadian state, no. But by a fellow, I don't want to be unkind, but he was not the sharpest tool in the box, not the brightest star on the horizon. He was speaking for the Jewish Defence League. Although, as my friend Ron in Scotland said, with that build he couldn't play in any league anywhere else. But he was very clear, wasn't he? Those of you who saw it. He was speaking for Canada. The Jewish Defence League, which is itself an extremist organisation whose founder was an avowed terrorist, the Rabbi Meir Kahane, now deceased, shot in New York by one of his own supporters, are a brutal street-fighting force of thugs. And so I say, conscious of the fact that the cameras are rolling, the Canadian people have to ask themselves, do they really want to be represented by the thugs of the so-called Jewish Defence League? They have to decide whether Canada wants its decisions made by the so-called Jewish Defence League. I say so-called because, of course, they're not defending Jews at all. In fact, everything they do makes life more difficult for the Jewish population in Canada, the United States, and anywhere else in the world. They don't speak for the Jews. I interviewed a man this morning, Paul Collins from War on Want, a Jewish socialist and supporter of Palestinian rights, who would have been proud to be with us on that convoy into Gaza. These people don't speak for Canada, they don't speak for Jews, and it's about time we stood up to them. It's about time we told them, we will not be blackmailed, browbeaten, we will not be intimidated by you. We're not afraid of you. We're not afraid of you. We're not afraid of you. Because this perversion of language in which they're engaged. You know, there's an ancient, I think, Yiddish word, chutzpah. It means brass neck. It means cheek. The cheek of these people talking about terrorism when they and their ideology, Zionism, is responsible for 60 years, as the Sheikh said. Not 22 days, not even the 41 years since Gaza was occupied and the West Bank and Jerusalem with it. But for 60 years, the Palestinian people have been massacred, driven from their homes, uprooted from their land. Their country was wiped off the map. Their people scattered to the four winds as refugees, living in exile all over the globe. They are, as I said, the victims of one of the greatest acts of terrorism of the modern era. And we intend to speak that truth everywhere that we can. As to the British government, well, they haven't been much help. We travelled through all these countries in which we maintain an embassy in every single one. Your taxes go to pay for them. We didn't see hide nor hair of a single British diplomat or official along the way. If we'd looked differently, let me put it that way, if we'd been travelling for another purpose, if we, say, had been running a Mercy convoy for Darfur, the British Embassy would have rolled out the red carpet for us every step of the way. But they turned their faces away as we passed. And in fact, when some of our people got into difficulties coming back, well, we could hardly raise them on the telephone and certainly not get them to do anything particularly to help. The British government had nothing to say about our convoy. But they did send their own convoy. They sent a Royal Naval convoy of British ships to sail off Gaza and to threaten anyone who attempted to smuggle the means of life into the besieged Gaza with being sunk on sight. Well, I know which convoy I'm glad I was on. I prefer our convoy to Gordon Brown's Royal Navy convoy. And here's news you probably don't know. The British government have written to the Muslim Council of Britain demanding that one of our convoy, Dr. Dawood Abdallah, one of the greatest contemporary speakers and thinkers of the Muslim community in Britain, the British government, Hazel Blears, all 4'6" of her, have demanded that the Muslim Council of Britain dismiss Dawood Abdallah for comments that he signed his name to at a recent conference in Istanbul, which deplored the deployment of this Royal Navy convoy. And you know what? The Muslim Council for Britain did not tell Hazel Blears immediately where to go, as they ought to have done. If they were men, they would have sent the letter back and said, we don't want any more of your obscene publications, take this back. They didn't. They're considering the demand. Well, let me say this. The Muslim Council of Britain would be very well advised not to accept orders from the new Labour government, which is on the same kind of last legs that the neocon government in Canada is. They should tell the British government that the Muslim Council of Britain is a free organisation in a free country, and it will decide who its Deputy General Secretary is, not Hazel Blears, not Gordon Brown. And that message should be loud and it should be clear. Dr. Dawood joined us in Al Arish just as the going got hot. If I was writing a play, as somebody is, or a movie, I think the title would be One Night in Al Arish. When the lights went out. And under the cover of darkness, somebody mysteriously defaced our vehicles and our posters with anti-Hamas slogans. And then the stones and the bricks came down. And 1,000 police stood by, facing not the aggressors, but us. I remember so well Sheikh Zohair's fabulous address to the brothers and sisters of the convoy on that occasion. I remember the chief of police sitting calmly drinking coffee whilst hundreds of Britishers were stoned, their property vandalised, and did nothing about it. That was the night, I believe, that the entire convoy came together as one hand. We had been, well, fractious, to say the least, on the long, difficult journey up to then. But faced with an external attack so close to Palestine, I could almost palpably feel and see the convoy coming together as one hand. And then the Egyptian inspectors moved in to try to divest us of some of the material we'd worked so hard to get there. And as I said in Gaza, I was never more proud than by the performance of our people that night, who used all their ingenuity, all their negotiating skills, and one or two skills they probably picked up on the back streets of Birmingham and Bradford and elsewhere, And some of the stuff that the Egyptians took off the vehicles miraculously appeared back in the vehicles. God works in mysterious ways. God works in mysterious ways, and we succeeded in leaving that car park, which I shall never forget, I must say, with approximately 90% of the material that we had taken all the way there.